So welcome everyone. I am AISLIN, and for those of you who don't know me, I am the founder of Body Mind Witchcraft. I'm also the High Priestess of Coven of Midnight's Flame, and I'm going to be presenting a workshop today, Journey of Shadow and Light. So this is a workshop that's going to teach you how you can use the chakra system to actually accelerate your shadow work. So you'll learn briefly what the shadow is, what shadow work is, and then we'll dive into how we can take that through the 7 main chakras. So if you're with us live, you can leave questions and comments here. We're gonna have a Q&A at the end. If you're watching back in replay, you'll just leave questions and comments underneath the video and I'll answer those afterwards. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. We've got a presentation for you here. So here we go. Let's move that up so we can all see it. Okay, so Journey of Shadow and Light, using the chakra system to accelerate your shadow work. So I always like to start any workshops on shadow work with this quote by Carl Jung. Many consider him the godfather of shadow work. He's the one who really coined the term shadow work in the first place. And he said, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And so this really speaks deeply to what shadow work is all about and what working with the shadow is about, because many times we have these events and circumstances and situations that are going on in our life, and it just feels like repeating patterns. We sometimes feel like we're out of control. And that's a really good indication that the shadow is driving what's going on in some way. Because on the outside, it feels like things are being done to us. It feels like we're out of control. This is why Carl Jung said it. You'll call it fate, because it just feels like these events were fated. But the reality is that we have so much more power than we realize. And so when we work with the shadow, we begin to uncover what's really driving everything underneath. This is where we start to take our power back. So what is the shadow? So for anybody who hasn't taken one of my workshops before, I like to start just with a brief little recap of what the shadow is. And for those of you who know all about shadow work, this will just be a review. So the shadow contains the rejected parts of our personality, and everybody has one. Even those who tell you that they don't have a shadow, they say I'm just full of love and light. Well, they're pretty much denying this part of themselves, which is going to cause them trouble either in this lifetime or in between lives. The shadow forms in 2 ways, both of which are natural, and that's also really important for us to remember. These are natural mechanisms. This isn't something that you've done wrong or that we've done bad. This is just simply the way that the human psyche progresses from birth until the end of its life. So 2 ways that it forms. One are through the roles and hats that we tried on and did not pursue. I think this is the really creative aspect of the shadow. These are the things that we attempted. So they're within our psyche, but perhaps for whatever reason, we didn't continue them. And so I always tell the story about me as a little ballerina at 3 or 4 years old. And I don't remember much of this because I was so young, but I went to ballet school. I was enrolled in ballet school. I didn't even really make it through the first day. I was sent home. And there was this narrative that I just wasn't coordinated enough. I wasn't graceful enough. I just wasn't cut out for it. So somewhere in my shadow exists that little ballerina, right? And so that's energy that could be tapped into later to pull out. And that's why I call this the very creative side of the shadow. And so this doesn't just have to be things from your childhood. This can be things from any part of your life, things that you started and you stopped. That's all inside of your shadow. And then technically it could be accessed. Now, the second part is the part that most people are talking about when they say I'm dealing with my shadow aspects. And these are the traits that were shunned by society. So these are the uncomfortable things that we feel inside that we don't like to think are part of us, but the reality is that they're part of all humans. And these are feelings like greed and anger, rage, hate, lust, jealousy, sloth, selfishness, etc. So any of those negative traits that we might carry. And so the shadow begins to form very, very early in life. And that's kind of the unfair part of this, is that, we don't even know this is developing at the time that it's developing. And so what that does is it's that's why I say it's a little bit unfair. But the reality is that this is our mechanism for enlightenment. So this is the work we're here to do in this lifetime. And so if it was just something that was handed to us and was easy, I guess it really wouldn't be work, right? And so what happens though is in childhood, we quickly learn which qualities and traits are going to be acceptable around those who we are near, and which ones are not going to be acceptable. And that can come from our families, that can come from a church that we are a part of, school, friend groups, anything around us, society in general. But what it does is it creates this dichotomy of good, bad, right, wrong that doesn't actually exist because nature and the universe itself are neutral, right? So if we think about raging storms, earthquakes, hurricanes, things like that, natural disasters, it's not that nature is like, oh, I'm going to get them, right? It's just simply nature. It's just a side of nature. And so the shadow is also just a side of us. But the problem is that when we reject it, we create all kinds of distress due to a perceived dichotomy that isn't really there, that doesn't really exist, right? So unconsciously, we're going to fight against that shadow, and that is going to take so much energy. What we're trying to do is we're trying to keep those qualities tamped down, but it's using up energy that we could use for something else. We could actually be using that energy to evolve ourselves spiritually, amplify our spiritual gifts. And that is the beauty of shadow work. And what many people will find is when they dive into the journey and they really take it seriously and they start doing their work, they're not even really doing anything to amplify their gifts, but they'll notice that their intuition increases, their clairs come online, or amplify if they were already there, and that to me is the byproduct of this type of work and why it's so important for witches, empaths, and other spiritually minded people to do. Okay, so shadow work is the process of acknowledging and integrating those shadow aspects. Now, how will we do that if they're unconscious? Well, that's the big question, right? How do we do that if we don't know what they are? So during our work, we may also discover that we carry things that don't belong to us. That's the other thing. So some of these traits are going to be within us, and we're going to be able to say, okay, yeah, that is something, and I can trace that back. I can figure out where that developed from. But some of the stuff we're carrying is ancestral, and some of it's from past lives. Recently, I have come to understand that I'm actually carrying some energy from a past life that needs to get released as well. So when we discover that things we're carrying aren't actually ours, it's not as much about acknowledging and integrating it, but letting it go. Now we all wear this mask, whether we admit it or not. We all wear this mask, the persona, which develops early in childhood. And if anybody can hear that, there's like a cat fight in the next room. I can't get up from the camera to deal with it, but we've got a cat fight going on next room between a couple of our cats. Okay, so we all wear the persona, and this develops in early childhood. And essentially, what it is, it's a mask that we put on that contains our likable personality, and it's designed to cover up all of our perceived flaws. But what we eventually come to believe is that that is us, that the persona is actually us. But the reality is that we don't truly know who we are until we start to take the shadow work journey and we start to take off that mask. Now, prior to this, what we'll find is that we're engaging in all kinds of patterns and we are reacting in certain ways. And sometimes we don't even fully know why. So if you've ever said to yourself, I don't know why I do this, but I always do this, or, I always do this, but I just don't know why. That is an aspect of your shadow that you can work with. And in fact, what it means is it's coming to the surface. A lot of this stuff is so unconscious that some of it we don't have access to at all, not at least not right now. But when you start to say things like that, like you start to notice things like that, that's the stuff you can start to work on. Now, every once in a while, we get those glimpses of our shadow, but a lot of the times it's only peripheral. It's on the edges of things, right? And it's kind of fleeting. It's there for a moment, and we have a little bit of an insight, and then it's gone. And that's really how it feels until we really truly commit to this soul's changing kind of work. Now, there is this idea in our society that if we just think positive, we could control the direction of our lives. And there is some reality to that. I'm a big proponent of let's try to work with our negative thoughts and our limiting beliefs because they're really in our way. But if we're not also doing our shadow work, if we don't find a way to face and befriend our shadow, a large element of everything is still going to remain out of our control. And so we'll be thinking positive and trying to do the right things and be good people, and still things aren't working out. And so if you're feeling that way, that is a definite indication that you want to work with your shadow. Okay, and just if anybody's live, just make sure you're muted until we get to the Q&A part. But you could definitely put questions in the chat. Um, we can change our external factors, but it's really just putting a band-aid on it. So we can move to a different place, we can get a different mate, we can get new friends, a new job, change those kinds of external things about us, but they're not really going to do a lot. It's really just going to be a band-aid on the problem unless we get to the source of the problem, which is the shadow. The shadow work allows us to begin to initiate that change, not on a surface level. We're not making changes on the surface, we're making changes within. That means that they're going to be lasting. So rather than projecting everything outside of ourselves onto the world and onto other people, shadow work allows us to turn that light on the inside. And we begin to uncover those aspects of our shadow and what we feel, what we realize in the beginning, and this is just in the beginning, we start to realize we feel a little bit more whole and calm and peaceful. We'll notice that the things that irked or annoyed us before, they're not really ruffling our feathers the same way anymore. And then we may find that our relationships begin to improve and we're no longer fazed by those things that once bothered us. So a lot of people will say that when they really commit to the work and they really do it, and it is the kind of work that we can't just dabble in. It's kind of like witchcraft. You can dabble in witchcraft, right? But you're not really going to get good at it unless you make it a daily or almost daily practice. And so when we make shadow work a regular practice and energy work a regular practice, many people say it feels like coming home to yourself because you're basically rediscovering who you are. Maybe you never even knew who that was the entire time. And many also then, like I said, as a byproduct, find this amplification of their spiritual gifts. So I'm going to go through quickly some of the shadow work methods that you can use. And then we're going to dive in and we're going to actually talk about the chakra system and how we can use chakras for our shadow work and how we can use energy work to complement it. And just so you know too, all of these methods that I'm going to, share with you here, if you want to know more about them, we teach all of these in our Shadow Seekers membership. But these will also give you ideas, kind of jumping off points where you can start to do some research, find out more about how to do some of these techniques. So the very first one is probably the quintessential technique of how to work with your shadow is identifying and working with your triggers. So our triggers are like our gifts from the universe. It's the universe's way of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, this is going to be something that is worth looking into. This is a way that you can help yourself, that you can do some of that shadow work. And so what happens is that many times, we're triggered. We don't understand why we're being triggered. But as we begin to do our shadow work, we kind of turn that mirror on ourselves, and it's sort of remove the other, right? So sometimes it's just like that person's annoying and irking me. And as long as I'm focused on them, I'm not able to do any of my own work. And it doesn't mean when I do this that I'm ignoring that or that I'm saying, oh, what they did isn't wrong or something like that. But I'm not going to progress myself forward if I'm preoccupied with them. So what we do is turn the mirror on yourself and figure out how could I work through something of my own through the lens of this trigger that I'm experiencing. So one of the best ways to work with your triggers, like I said, is just find somebody or some situation that really irritates you and annoys you and just start to contemplate it. And so one thing you can also do is to do your shadow work time, do some timing with your shadow work. So the energy of shadow work, because it's internal work and it's receptive work, it's really very much aligned with the energy of the waning moon, especially the waning crescent, and in particular the balsamic and the dark moons. And for those who don't know, the waning crescent is the last 7 days of the lunar cycle. And the balsamic is the last 3 days or last 72 hours. And then the dark moon is the final day before it flips over into the new moon. And so that time period is where people really start to feel like they want to go inward. And it's an invitation to do this kind of work. So you can work with your triggers, kind of contemplate them during that time. And you might get more than if you tried to contemplate them at a different part of the lunar cycle. Now, that being said, though, I sometimes you'll just have spontaneous shadow work sessions happen to you at any time. I've had them during a full moon ritual. But if you want to maximize your kind of the energy, try to do it during the waning half of the cycle. The other thing you can do is work with dark gods and goddesses or gods and goddesses of the underworld. So if you work with deity in your practice, bringing in some of these deities can be very helpful because they many of them are connected to the unconscious, and the underworld itself is an aspect of the unconscious. And a lot of these stories of these deities that descend into the underworld are um, um, basically analogies of or metaphors of us descending into the shadow. So one prime example is the story of Inanna. So for those who don't know, Inanna, she descends through 7 different gates on the way to the underworld to meet her sister in order to go to her brother's funeral. In each of these 7 gates, she has to take off a piece of her clothing or her jewelry. And these are all pieces that are covering her chakras. And so basically her descent is working through the chakras and then getting down into the unconscious. So some of these stories are very prime for this kind of work. There's other deities you can work with, like in Shadow Seekers recently we worked with Kaliak. She was very good. We connected to the higher self when we worked with her. We worked with Coventina. She's not typically a goddess we think of with like the underworld or anything, but she's connected to the sacral chakra and the throat chakra. And so we worked with her in order to kind of figure out how to speak our truth. So there's a lot of deities you can use. Other ones we've used, Caradwin is a very good one. Hecate is great for shadow work. So working with dark deities can be very helpful. Self-reflection and active imagination. So this is a form of contemplation. Some people might say it's like meditation, but essentially what you do is you take an aspect you want to work on, or perhaps take a shadow work prompt, and you will then reflect on it. Carl Jung called it active imagination, but it's basically you're kind of in a meditative state and then you're contemplating the idea or contemplating the prompt. And what I like to do is I like to pair that with yin yoga. Now, for those who don't know, yin yoga is not like the typical yoga we think about. There's not a lot of moving in it. We're not flowing at all. It's where we get into these specific positions and we hold them for long periods of time, sometimes 5 to 10 minutes. And during that time, the physical body begins to let go, begins to release. And we're able to drop down into the energetic body. And then from there, we can kind of let go of some of the stuck and stagnant energy in the energetic body that might be like near some of our chakras. And so if you get into yin yoga and you kind of drop down into those states, then you can start to contemplate those prompts and you may find that answers to questions that you've never been able to get an answer to before come through because you're so relaxed. Other people also find that it can be a big emotional release. Sometimes people start to cry, weeping, right? Letting go, cathartically letting go of energy that's in you. So I highly, highly recommend yin yoga paired with like some kind of contemplation. And then there's also yoga nidra. This is a special type of meditation technique. Despite the name yoga, we think in the West we think yoga is asana, which is movement. But yoga combines all kinds of different aspects that help to yoke the soul to the body. And in yoga nidra, it's a special type of meditation where you are kind of induced into this receptive state. You're given a series of opposites. So it might be like in one yoga nidra, it's like a gravestone and then a rose. And so you're giving kind of these polarities. And then through this meditative practice, many people are able to just kind of release things that they've been holding, a lot of emotions and energy. And so the teacher who taught it to me, she said that her own yoga nidra practice, when she learned it, she had done it for a few months and she said it was like 20 years of therapy. So highly recommend yoga nidra. A few other methods, inner child work, the the shadow develops, like I said, when you were a little tiny kid. So going in and working with your inner child and making your inner child an ally in this work can be very, very helpful, because they like I said, they will be an ally in the work. Working with shadow and light archetypes. So archetypes are symbolic representations of energies, and there are some archetypes which are human, and they actually inform the human psyche. And so they are, so when we find when we find archetypes that we resonate with, so let's say, for example, the mother. So many people might resonate with the mother archetype, or perhaps with the healer. So a lot of people who join our groups, they have kind of a healing touch, or they feel called to help other people. And so there's light aspects of that, right? Because you're helping other people. But then there's the shadow aspects of it, where maybe you're doing it to the disservice of yourself. I bet a lot of people can relate to that. You're always giving, 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 but you're not giving back to you. And so when you explore kind of those shadow aspects of the archetypes that you resonate with, that you embody, that will also lead you to heal some of your shadow aspects. We can also do dream work. The dreams are the gateway to the unconscious. That's what Sigmund Freud said. And so when we are in the dream state, it's much easier for the unconscious mind to get messages through to us. But the problem is that the unconscious does not speak in words, it speaks in symbols. And that's why your dreams are often confusing. But if you start to do dream work, you start to learn kind of like your own symbology of your own dreams, that also can help bring messages from the unconscious that you can use during your shadow work. And then you can also work with aspects of your astrological chart. So you can look at your Chiron placement and your Chiron return, your Saturn return, your Uranus half return, and also look at past life astrology, which will help you kind of uncover things that you're carrying through from past lives. And we do a lot of that in our Shadow Seekers membership as well. We do a lot of astrology. And then you can also do shadow work journaling and prompts. Those can be used through active imagination and through like contemplation, meditation. And so if you're interested in shadow work, journaling, and prompts, I just recommend that you Google just shadow work prompts. You're going to find hundreds on there. There's no right or wrong to this. Just pick a few that resonate with you and just start to write about them or contemplate them. And then finally, working with the shadow side of the chakra system. So that's what the rest of this workshop is going to be about. So I'm just going to look here in the chat for a second. I see a lot of people saying hi. Um, and then Kurt said, why would you want to release energy from a past life? Well, because oftentimes the energy that we're carrying from past lives is very negative. Yeah. So if we've had trauma in a past life, or we've repeated patterns, that's what I recently found out, is that I repeated a pattern through several different lifetimes, and I'm still carrying it in this one. So letting go it's going to help me move through that and past that. And then Diane said it does feel like coming home. Yeah, shadow work definitely does feel like coming home. Carla Anaya, she said, my husband had a question if you can put your crystals out at the solar eclipse, being the sun and moon at the same time. So not totally related to shadow work, but great question. Solar eclipses, people have different opinions about that. Some people feel the solar eclipse energy is pretty chaotic. And so putting out the crystals at that time, while it would infuse them with sun and moon energy, might bring in some chaos that you're not anticipating. So if it were me, I probably wouldn't put crystals out at the solar eclipse. Very good question. And then Lauren said, oh, can you repeat the goddess's name? Her name is Inanna, Inanna, Inanna. Okay, so let's dive further in. So why would we pair shadow work with energy work? Now, most shadow work programs that I've come across don't consider the energetic bodies. They just teach shadow work. A lot of times the shadow work is just taught from a psychological perspective. There'll be like Jungian life coaches running it, things like that. And they don't often involve and bring in the energetic body as well. But the problem is when we don't address this, we actually have all kinds of energy blockages in our body, whether we want to believe it or not. We all have them. And what happens is through trauma and these attempts to maintain that persona, kind of maintain that mask that we're wearing, we create blockages within the energetic body. So I've even found that I have a massive one here in my solar plexus that's come in from a past life and through a death in a past life. And so traditional shadow work seeks to remove the blockages of the mental and emotional bodies, but it tends to ignore those energetic ones. It just kind of lets them go. And if we don't do that, if we don't work through the energetic body, that's staying there. That stuck and stagnant energy is going to stay there. But if we do work with the energetic body, we can experience a great acceleration of our shadow work and our healing process. And so when I combined these two together, shadow work and energy work, that's when I really felt everything was taken to the next level. And viewing our work through the lens of the chakra system will point us to multiple areas where we can do our shadow work. And so tonight, we're going to go through all of the chakras, and you're going to leave this workshop with at least 1 to 3 different areas of your life where you can do some shadow work. So if you've ever wondered, I want to do shadow work, but I don't even know where to start, I don't know what to do, we're going to answer that question for you. And on top of that, I'm also going to teach you some practices that you can use to balance your energy and work with your chakras. Okay, so let's dive in. So one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And again, the great Carl Jung. So it's a very fitting quote for this part of the workshop. So like I said before, we can draw in light, we can be positive, but if we're not getting down into the darkness within us, we're not doing all of our work fully. So for those who don't know, it's good for us to start with just a brief overview of the chakra system. So some people don't even know what I'm talking about when I say the chakras. So let's just do a little brief explanation of that. So your body is composed of 7 major energy centers and many, many minor ones, as well as 72,000 energy channels, which are called nadis. So these energy channels are not in your physical body, they're in your energetic body, which basically is here would be like the best analogy for it, is if your physical body is a sponge. Your energetic body, and let's say we soak that sponge in water and we get it all saturated with water. The water is your energetic body. And so they're merged together, but they're not the same thing. Now we have these 72,000 channels where this energy moves through us. And what will happen though is just like a stream, and in fact, the word nadi comes from a word that's related to stream. So like water moving through a stream. And just like that, they can also become blocked, stuck, and have stuck and stagnant energy in these areas of the body. Now, contrary to what some people believe, a chakra, you cannot have a chakra be completely closed. Because what that would mean is there's no energy moving through that part of the body at all. And that never happens. But what can happen is that they can become very, very, very blocked in that there was like maybe only this tiny little bit of area for the energy to move through. And we can also get massive amounts of stuck and stagnant energy in that area too. That's what I'm experiencing here in my solar plexus. And that also is making its way into the physical body through digestive issues. And so because these two are so merged, and what you'll find is when you have an energetic issue, you probably also have a physical issue. And if you have a physical issue, 100% you have an energetic issue. And we'll talk more about that as we go. Now, the chakra system is such a great system because it provides us a framework through which we can heal all these different aspects: energetic, emotional, mental, and physical. And there are issues in the psyche and the physical body, like I said, that will indicate that you have an energetic issue and vice versa. So I get a lot of neck issues. And so, yes, there's absolutely a physical reason to have neck problems, right? So a lot of tech neck, right? So much computer work. Um, and and there's many other reasons, right? There could be many other reasons why you might have a neck issue. But whenever you have a neck issue, or like whenever I have one, I know that there's going to be some kind of an energetic issue in my throat chakra. And so if I begin to work physically with the neck and also energetically with the throat chakra, I'm going to accelerate my ability to heal that area or move past it, right? Get it to feel better. So the same thing goes with the solar plexus I was talking about. So if you have digestive issues, you also have an issue with your solar plexus. So you can do all the physical things to work through the digestion, get a good probiotic, right? See a doctor, make sure there's nothing like medical that needs to be addressed, trying to eat well, things like that, and eat the right foods for your body type. And then you can also work with the solar plexus, and then that's going to accelerate the healing. Okay, so it's a beautiful system, and I say it's almost, the chakra system is like a barometer, because it's going to tell you exactly. In fact, your body is a barometer, because it's basically telling you exactly where in your energetic system you need to work. And this is why when we work with the different systems all together, energetic, emotional, physical, it's going to have such a profound effect on us, because you're healing at multiple levels. Because here's the thing, is if you go and let's say you go and you try to heal the stomach issues just physically, but you leave the energetic blockage there, it's just going to manifest later as something else. So if we can really truly move the energy, get that moving, get that resolved, well, then it won't have to manifest in some other way later to kind of tap us on the shoulder and tell us there's something wrong. That's essentially what pain is, and much of the physical ailments that we have. They're just telling you too, look, there's something in your energetic body that needs to be worked on. So exploring each chakra in turn will show you aspects of yourself that need healing. And I would be surprised if when we start going through these different chakras, you're not going to find several of these that you have some issues with that you need to work with. And I do want to normalize that, because sometimes people start to freak out a little bit and feel down, because they'll be like, I've got to work on all of them. I've got to work on all of them. I've been working on all of them for 20 years. And so this is a lifetime of work. It's just how we, it's like anything. Exercise, eating well, all of the good habits that you bring into your lives. It's not like you can just exercise. Let's say we exercise for a month and we're like, okay, I did exercise, right? Exercise is for a lifetime. Eating well is for a lifetime. Managing your energetic centers and your chakra system is a lifetime of work. Here's a picture too for those who don't know where the chakras are located. So chakra, the word chakra translates to wheel or disc, and many people refer to them as wheels of light. And this is sometimes the way they're visualized by people. So while the chakras cannot be seen by the visible eye most of the time, some people can see them. It is thought that they vibrate at certain frequencies, which creates the perception of light of different colors. And when we work with color, this is one way to work with the chakra system. So if you want to work with, I keep going to the solar plexus because that's what I'm working on right now. But if you want to work on the solar plexus, here you see Manipura, the solar plexus is yellow. So I could work with the color yellow. I can bring in yellow candles. I can put yellow around my room. I can wear yellow, get yellow jewelry. Same goes if I want to work with the throat. I want to bring in the color blue. Now, the chakras are divided into two sets. One is the upper set and one is the lower set. And then they have the heart chakra in the middle, which is the bridge in between them. So we're going to talk about all of those in turn before we get into the shadow side of the chakras. So the lower triad is the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus. And I have to tell you, I don't know, I've rarely ever met anybody who didn't have some issues with one of these. It's just a byproduct of incarnating into this world we've incarnated into. It's a hard world to live in. It's very much like kind of cut off from nature, cut off from the divine in general, the collective is. And so we develop a lot of issues. There's a lot of insecurities. There's a lot of inability to express ourselves the way we need to, a lot of self-doubt and self-belief. In the groups I run, it's a huge one for people, is like when you ask people what gets in the way of you pursuing your dreams, or what gets in the way of you from really putting into practice what you know you need to put into practice. A lot of times it's self-doubt, and that's all about the solar plexus. So these areas, they tend to be more about our physical and material concerns. And like I said, many spiritual people have issues in one or more of these chakras. So don't be surprised if you find you have issues in all three. When we start going through them one at a time, I have issues in all three. Okay, so the root chakra, Muladhara. Muladhara translates to root support. This is the base, it's located at the base of your spine. I like to think about like the tip of the tailbone, and it vibrates with the color red. Now here we find our sense of security, groundedness, foundation, stability, support. And the associated body parts are the feet, the legs, bones, teeth, anus, large intestine. So, like the lower half of the body. So, if you find that you've got issues in the lower half of the body, then you're going to want to work with your root chakra. You want to work energetically. Now, you want to work physically too to heal whatever those things are. But if you bring in the energetic work, you're going to make it that much faster. Now, the sacral chakra, Svadhisthana, it translates to one's own place. And this is about 2 to 3 inches below the navel. So you're kind of coming up from the root, coming up into the underneath the navel. It vibrates with the color orange. This is about movement, flow, expansion, emotions, pleasure, passion, creation. Whereas the root chakra is connected to the earth element, the sacral chakra is connected to the water element. So this is how we walk, how we move, right? The divine feminine. The associated body parts here are sacrum, hips, low back, and the sex organs. If you have any reproductive problems, any problems with your periods, if you're someone who gets periods, any tight hips, sacral chakra, or sacrum issues, SI joint issues, all of that is pelvic issues, all of that is the sacral chakra. Solar plexus, Manipura, the city of gems. I really love this translation because it tells you how important this center is. This is the center of our digestion. And if we look at Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga, the food and digestion is the key to health, like above all other things. And so this is not located right at your navel. It's actually located about 2 to 3 inches above. And in many people, it can be a little bit sore. So if you kind of find your own navel and then count up like a 1 or 2 inches, you're typically going to find it. There it is right on me, this very sore area. It's kind of tender. And that is like kind of the physical location of where your solar plexus is. Now, this is all about our strength, will, mastery, power, self-confidence, and self-belief. So if you're having trouble believing in yourself, having confidence, having self-esteem, really putting your mastery out into the world, then this is an area you want to work on. Likewise, if you're having any issues with your ribs, stomach, digestive organs, or your adrenal glands and kidneys, then the solar plexus is a good one to work with. And I'm just going to see if we got anything else in the chat here. And then Kurt said he's been taking a Reiki course, so this will be good. Yeah, so good review of all the chakras. Excellent, yeah. And then Sabrina said she's always placed clear quartz, moonstone, amethyst during the eclipse because it's a way to cleanse them and recharge the stones. Yeah, so some people don't mind putting stuff out at the eclipse. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the upper triad. Okay, so the upper triad consists of the throat, the third eye, and the crown chakras. Okay, so these areas are a lot different than the lower three. These tend to be about spiritual matters. Many spiritual people will find that these chakras, with the exception of the throat, a lot of people have some stuck and stagnant energy in the throat, but many people are going to find that their third eye and their crown is relatively open, even if they're having trouble with their intuition. Because a lot of times the issues are coming from the lower triad. So we have some stuck and stagnant energy down in the lower three chakras, which mean that the energy isn't able to adequately rise up through the rest of the body in an, I should say not even adequate, optimally rise up through the rest of the body. Because your energy is flowing from your root chakra out through the crown of your head, and we can also bring in energy from the crown and down into the body and down into the root. But if we have areas of this that are stuck, right? There's stuck and stagnant energy in them. That energy isn't going to move as well as it could. So the first of the upper triad is the throat. This is Vishuddha. It translates to pure, is usually or purity is usually the translation of it. It's located in the center of the neck and vibrates with the color blue. This is all about your communication, purification, and speaking your truth. So if you have trouble communicating with others, if you're having just a particular issue communicating with others, or issues speaking your truth, you're definitely going to want to look at the throat chakra. Associated body parts, shoulders, neck, throat, tongue, mouth, ears. If you got some TMJ like I do, that's an indication of the throat chakra issues. The third eye, ajna, to command, perceive. This is located in the center of the forehead. Indigo and purple are the colors of the third eye. Now, this is about your intuition, insight, guidance, wisdom, clairvoyance. So, if you feel like your intuition is kind of off, you may find that working with the third eye will help, but also I recommend that people look at the lower three chakras and just see if they've got some blockages down there, because oftentimes third eye issues are issues of the lower chakras and just energy not flowing well. Associated body parts here: eyes, forehead, pineal gland. If you're having trouble sleeping, sometimes there is an issue of this chakra as well. Crown chakra, Sahasrara. This is the translates to great sounds. This is our connection outside of us to the universe. It's located at the top of the head. Now, some people say actually on the crown, like you could actually tap it here. Others say it's located a few inches outside of the physical body, because your energetic body actually extends past your physical body by several inches. The color here is violet or white, depending on how you perceive it, or the texts that you're reading, you're studying. This is about our awareness, the unity with the divine, spiritual connection, transformation. And the associated body parts here are the head, brain, pituitary, and just the nervous system in general. So headaches, people who are having headaches, usually you're going to want to look at the third eye, the crown, and then possibly also the throat, especially if you find that you have a stiff neck or a tight neck, because that can also contribute to a headache. Okay, and then in the center of all of this is the heart chakra. This is the bridge between the upper and the lower triads of chakras. So for this reason, many people will call this the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it's very difficult. There's a very difficult period that we've chosen to incarnate into. And regardless of what people think, you did choose this. You chose this incarnation. You chose this time for a specific reason. But it's a hard one. The collective is disconnected from nature. It's disconnected from the divine. And so many of us carry very deep wounds and scars in the heart. And if we can clear that stuck and stagnant energy out of this area, this is imperative to our shadow work, because remember, that energy needs to flow optimally through all of your chakras. The heart chakra, anahata, translates to unstruck sound, found at the center of the chest, and it vibrates with the color green. So this is about love, self-love. It all starts with self-love, compassion, and disillusion of the ego and separateness. So any conception that we have of us being separate from the universe, that gets dissolved inside the heart chakra. I think of the heart chakra as like an expansive ocean, and you can literally take anything, any negative emotions that you have, and you can breathe. So like if you have kind of negative emotions coming up, a lot of times what we do is we kind of clench up and we push them away, because nobody wants to feel them, right? And so if instead what you do is you just breathe very deeply and breathe that negative emotion into your heart, and trust that your heart can dissolve it. The heart is like an expansive ocean, like I said, and just imagine like a drop of water just being dropped into that ocean and just merging with it. It's gone. And that is the power. That is the power that the heart chakra can have. The associated body parts here are the heart, lungs, circulatory system, respiratory system, shoulders, arms, and hands. So sometimes we forget, but any issues that we're having in the arms and hands are also connected to the heart, and any breathing issues that we have. So if you have asthma like I have, that's usually going to be an indication to work with the heart. Okay, so before we look at each of the chakras in turn, we're just going to do a short energy moving practice. And so to keep the workshop moving and not taking forever, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate these and then tell you what you'll do with each of these. If you do just decide to join our Shadow Seekers membership, we have alignment practice videos, which actually take you through a lot of these practices, and I'm adding more all the time. So the first one is the healing square breath. This is a very great breath to use. This is a breath that will bring down your, bring down kind of the central nervous system. So if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling worried, if you're feeling like you've got a lot of kind of energy, you're just kind of feeling like that, right? You can bring this, you could use this breath, and it can be very grounding as well. So very simple breath. You just take a deep breath and you inhale for the count of 4. Then you hold for a count of 4. You exhale for a count of 4. And then you hold for a count of 4. And then you start again. Inhale 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4. And that's why they call it the square, healing square breath, because each side of the square is like your count of 4. And sometimes people will find that the count of 4 is too much. So you can go down to like 3, 3, 3, and 3. But we want to make sure is that it's even. You want to have the same count for every part of the breath. And so I recommend people do that. I mean, you can do that for 5 minutes if you want. But if you do that for a couple of minutes, that can be very, very helpful to get your energy kind of just started moving. Now, once you do that, that's a very grounding breath. But the next thing is the heart moving Kriya. So I love this one. A Kriya is a repetitive movement. Most of the time, it's with your body. And so this one's really cool because not only is it good for your heart chakra, it's also very good for manifestation. So it's part of a manifestation practice that I use. And it also has this added benefit that it strengthens your upper arms too. So what you do for this one is you're going to put your arms out like this. And you're going to bring your right hand to your chest. And you don't want to actually touch the heart, but you're just going to bring it just a few inches above the heart. You're going to look to the left and you're going to inhale. And then you'll bring the left hand just above the chest, extend out your right arm. Look, you can kind of look to the right as well, and you're going to exhale. So it's going to be an inhale on the left and an exhale on the right. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And then eventually you speed this up. So it's going to look like this. And so what I recommend people do is, if you kind of do it, you might feel a little lightheaded. That is the energy moving, and you're actually getting breath in, in air and oxygen that maybe you hadn't had before at that level. But what I recommend people do is slow that down if that's too fast. And I would do it for 1 minute to 2 minutes to 3 minutes, and it fills you up. If you do that for 2 or 3 minutes, you're going to feel so good. It's a little light twist as well. So it kind of moves some stuck and stagnant energy that might be in the solar plexus as well. And then there's my favorite. A lot of people love this one too. This is the lion's breath. So the lion's breath is very easy and it's so good for getting out like negative emotions. So if you're just got a lot of like anger or just those hot negative emotions, try this breath. It's so, so great. And so it looks a little crazy. So I just always preface that. But you're going to take a deep inhale. And then on the exhale, you stick out your tongue and you make a hissing sound. Some people like to bug out their eyes. You can make like a crazy face, but it's just like that. And the microphone probably gated that sound, but you carry out that hissing sound there. Such a great releasing breath. You can do, 4 or 5 rounds of that and see how you feel. I really love doing it on like dark moons when I'm trying to let go of energy. Very, very good breath. And then there's the 3 sips in. This is also a great breath for moving some energy through your body. So it's just kind of what it sounds like. You're going to sip in 3 times through one breath. So it's going to like you're sipping in through a straw. It would look like. And then on the exhale, you can exhale either through your nose or through your mouth. And for anybody who's live, just make sure you're muted.
Yeah, I'm watching it now, baby.
Make sure you're muted, guys. I'm trying to figure out how to mute.
Energy work.
What is it?
Okay. Okay. So that one again. So you're going to sip in 3 times. And exhale. So I sometimes exhale through the nose, but it would look like this if I was exhaling through the mouth. But either way works. But that breath is also a really great one. 3 sips in. And then finally, the seed sounds are a way that you could just do kind of a quick like reset of all the chakras. So these are the seed sounds for each chakra, lum, and these are all pronounced with so that A in the middle, it's not lam, it's lum. The A in Sanskrit is pronounced So this would be lum is the root chakra. Vam is the sacral chakra. Ram is the solar plexus. Yum, the heart. Hum is the throat. Om is the third eye. And then the silent Om, so you just kind of hear that in your head silently, and that is the crown. And so when you do seed sounds, you typically want to vibrate them from low in the body. So like if I was going to do lum, it would be like lum. Instead of like, I don't want it high up in my voice, like lum. I don't want it like that. I want it like low in my body so it kind of resonates and reverberates. Lum. And so what you can do is you can intone those seed sounds, and you can do a lot of other things when you're doing it at the same time. So you can kind of imagine red, the color red, infusing your body as you vibrate the sound lum. And then you can imagine orange infusing your body as you vibrate vam, and then yellow for rum, and green for yum at the heart, right? And then blue for hum at the throat. Usually like a purplish color for om at the third eye, and then maybe clear light for the silent om of the crown. So that practice there, you could move through. You could do all 5 of those things. You'd probably have yourself a good like little 10-minute practice, and it would be a great daily energy moving practice to bring in. And like I mentioned, in our Shadow Seekers membership, we have videos that you can practice along with me instead of just doing it on your own, for those who are interested. Okay, so we are going to dive into the last final part of the workshop. So this is looking at the various chakras. And then let me just see what else is in the chat. I see that that Kurt had asked, so this course could open up the energy channels and your energy will flow much better, so you could use it to reach your spiritual goals. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So if you are, anything that you're working on spiritually, if you do energy work like this, it will help move out some of those stuck and stagnant energy. It will help it flow better, and absolutely will help you kind of elevate, ascend to whatever your spiritual goals are. Sabrina said she loves the seed sounds, has become a daily exercise. Yeah, great daily exercise to do like a reset. Amy asked, are all those these a breath in and out of the nose? Usually, except for that lion's breath. So that one, it's an inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. But I have a lot of issues with my nose because of allergies and sinus things. So when you can't do the nose, just do the mouth. But usually they say it's better. We tend to be able to, I don't even know exactly why it would be, but most exercises, they recommend that you use the nose when you can. But great questions. Okay, so viewing shadow work through the lens of the chakras. So why do we bring the chakras into our shadow work? So major reason that the chakras become unbalanced or stay that way is because of our unconscious forces and beliefs that are underneath everything. So for example, if a person has an unconscious belief that they can't succeed at certain things, they're going to create a blockage in the solar plexus. And so what that means is that energy is going to stay there, stuck and stagnant, until that person works through that belief and its associated shadow parts or shadow aspects. Now, another example is, let's say a person has an unconscious fear that they're never going to make enough money to support themselves. And that can then create blockages in the root chakra. And then the person is just going to find that they never feel like there's enough until they work through that belief and its associated shadow aspects. Now, there are 2 complementary ways that we can approach shadow work through the lens of the chakra system. So the first thing we can do is through our shadow work. So if you're already doing shadow work, you've probably begun to identify some of your perceived flaws, unconscious beliefs, limiting beliefs, shortcomings, all these aspects of the shadow. And you can use that information to help you determine which chakras are compromised. And so that's what we're going to do in the remainder of the workshop, is kind of go one by one through these chakras. Now, on the other hand, you can figure out which chakras are compromised either through your physical or your emotional symptoms. So, like I said, I know solar plexus right now for me and throat. And so, just paying attention to the body, then I can use that knowledge to figure out the aspects of the shadow self to work on that are associated with those chakras. Okay. And so, I'm going to take all the guesswork out of it in just a second. I'm going to show them all to you. And many people are going to find that a combination of these two methods together work the best for them. So let's dive in. Root chakra. Okay, so you're going to want to pay attention here and just see, do you hear yourself or see yourself in any of these? So the root chakra shadow aspects, the themes that we want to explore are security, survival, and safety. So you kind of want to think about, what do those words mean to you? Do you feel secure? Do you feel like you're able to survive well? Do you feel safe? Other themes to explore: grounding. Do you feel grounded? The right to exist. Sometimes you don't even think about that. Do you truly believe that you have a right to exist? Sometimes we say yes, but when we dive a little bit deeper in, we start to uncover some not so affirmative things, right? Now, common reasons for the blockages, these are like things that could have come into our lives at any period of time that could also lead to some root chakra issues. Abuse, neglect, abandonment. So any of those issues that we may carry with us will compromise the root. Accidents, surgeries, injuries, especially when we were very young, but at any point in the life cycle, when we're in accidents, surgeries, or have surgeries and have injuries, this can compromise the root chakra as well. Poor boundaries. So we try to set up boundaries and we just let other people kind of step over them. It's a good indication that we have some root chakra issues. Inherited or ancestral trauma. Sometimes you won't know that you have this. In fact, most people carry something that they brought in ancestrally with them, or they've inherited. But if you are able to kind of discern, okay, I think I am carrying something ancestrally, and a lot of times it'll be like a pattern that you'll see throughout the lifetimes. If you kind of look at your parent, one of your parents, look at a grandparent, a great grandparent, and you may see this kind of threaded throughout an entire line, a generation of multiple generations of people in the same family. So in my family, on my mother's side, there's a lot of throat chakra issues. And I think I brought some of that in ancestrally, and I have some work to do to let go of that. So that's something we have a workshop in Shadow Seekers on working through ancestral trauma, and we're going to be doing another one as well at some point. Okay, so if you feel like the root chakra is one that you need to work on, here are some shadow areas to heal. Okay. So disconnection of parts of the self or the body due to trauma. So if you feel there's parts of your body or parts of yourself that you're very disconnected from, then this would be an area to work on in your shadow work. So this is where, and what you can do with this is, now the sky's the limit. So like once you kind of say, okay, that's one that I have, then you start to work through shadow work prompts or any of those things I mentioned in the beginning, the inner child work, working with dark gods and goddesses, yin yoga, like all those different methods. You start using those methods to start to heal this specific aspect. Deep-seated fears about survival. So, ask yourself, do I trust my ability to survive, right? No matter what happens. Repression of past experiences or feelings. So if you feel like there's a lot of energy or emotions that are repressed, that can also be an area to work through. Extreme insecurity disguised as judgment. So sometimes we'll feel like we don't want to believe that we're judgmental, but if you kind of really stop and think about it, kind of notice where you're judging things, and does it disguise any kind of insecurity inside of you? And then limiting beliefs or narratives about money and abundance. So if you feel that you have some kind of limited beliefs or narratives that say, I can't ever make enough, or I don't ever have enough, or it comes to everybody else but not me, this would be another area to work through. Okay, the sacral chakra, themes to explore: pleasure, creativity. So, you kind of think about, like, how do you relate to these ideas? Can you take pleasure in things? Are you creative, or do you feel blocked here? Sexuality and desire. Can you express yourself sexually and sensually? Can you move forward on the things that you want and that you need? Flexibility and flow. Can you go with the flow? Surrender. Do you have trouble surrendering to things when you know that they're right, but you might have pushback in them? And then our emotions. So if you feel like your emotions are all over the place, or you really are trying to get control of your emotions, these would be other themes that point towards the sacral chakra. The common reasons for the blockages: sexual abuse, sexual shame, shaming of emotions. So if you came from a family where emotions were not meant to be expressed, like kind of in my family, it was like I was very emotional and nobody else was. And so that can be a reason to have blockages in the sacral chakra. I think that's where a lot of mine come from. And then also shaming of creativity, like sometimes people's creativity is shamed. Now, if you feel that the sacral chakra is one of yours to work on, here would be some shadow areas to consider healing. So denial of emotions. So are you kind of denying any emotions that you have? Denial of pleasure. Do you allow yourself to feel and experience pleasure? Shame surrounding sex. Poor boundaries. So the poor boundaries can also have a cause in the root chakra. And so a lot of times what we'll find is chakras that are near each other, like the root and the sacral, they're kind of like a unit. So if you have root chakra issues, oftentimes you also have sacral ones too. So if you were working through poor boundaries, you'd probably want to work with both of those chakras. Being taken advantage of by toxic people. So if you have patterns in your life where there's a lot of toxic people that come in and out and take advantage of you, this would definitely be an area to heal, to work through. Inability to go with the flow, rigid thinking. So if it's really hard for you, you kind of have a thought and it's really hard for you to get out of that thought and move into a different one, or be open to other perspectives, then this would be another area that you could heal through your shadow work, through the lens of the sacral chakra. Obsession. So obsession about things and about people, maybe a person in particular. And so if you feel that you have that, this is also something to let go of, because obsession is like clutching, right? And what it does is anytime there's like that clutching, clenching kind of energy, it's not letting your energy flow. And this sacral chakra, of all the chakras, this one's all about flow. Okay, solar plexus. Themes to explore: confidence and self-belief, autonomy. Do you feel that that you're autonomous, that you can make your own decisions without being swayed by other people? Will. When you have ideas, when you have things you want to do, do you have the willpower and the will to put them forward? Power again. And that's also an interesting one to think about, is the theme of power and how do we relate to power? So we live in a society where it's all about power over, right? That's what government is. That's what people in charge are. It's like power over everybody, at least a lot of the time. And if you've ever read anything by Starhawk, she talks a lot about the different types of power and how we have to move into like power from within. So if we can all have power from within without needing to be in control of everyone else and everything around us. So kind of negotiating our relationship with power. Vitality. Do you feel that you have enough life force in you? This is a draining world that we're incarnated in, and that can quickly get drained. The common reasons for blockages here: the pressure to conform, to fit in, to be like everybody else, right? In this muggle world that we've been born into. Strict parenting. So parenting where you weren't given a lot of freedom, and especially parenting where you weren't given a lot of freedom and you weren't told why. Punishment by authority figures, right? That kind of clamp down on the things that you're doing. And cultural or societal beliefs about power. Like I said, sometimes people feel like that power is something for everybody else, but not for them. Or they've watched other people be in power and abuse power, and they don't want to be like that. So they go the opposite direction. And then what they essentially do is they don't take any of their own power. So if you connect and relate to the solar plexus, um, these would be some areas to heal. So abuse of authority or power. And so you want to explore your own kind of relationship to it. Do you abuse your power in any situations? And sometimes you'll say the gut reaction will be, no, of course not. But if you really dive deep into it, you may notice that there are places where you abuse your authority or power. Narcissism. So this isn't always just about the other. Can be about us too. We may have some narcissistic tendencies in certain areas to work through. Being easily manipulated by others. So if you feel that you are somebody who's kind of manipulated, doesn't catch on to what people are doing, that would be an area to work through. Unable to act on your will. So like you have an idea and you have something you want to do and you can't put it forward. That would be something to work on. Difficulty with decision making. This was always a hard one for me ever since I was a little kid. Hard to pick the toy that I wanted at Toys R Us. It's just, my parents would become exasperated with me as I tried to, like, in my mind, make a decision. And so that's that would be an aspect to work through as well. And allowing others to control major aspects of your life. So if you're someone who kind of gives a lot of your power away and just sort of lets other people make the decisions, then that also would be an area to work on through your shadow work that's connected to the solar plexus. And feeling powerless. And procrastination. Okay, this is a big one. I forgot this one was even on this slide. So this is a big one for a lot of people. So procrastination can have many, many, many causes, but one of them is sometimes about our self-confidence, our self-belief that we won't be able to do it, that it's going to be too hard, that we're going to run into roadblocks when we get started. And so if you are somebody who procrastinates, like I do, always have, definitely working with the solar plexus can help. Okay, heart chakra, themes to explore: love and relationships, self-love. How do you love yourself? Do you trust other people? Do you trust yourself? Forgiveness. Can you forgive others? Can you forgive yourself? Balance versus imbalance. Are you able to see when you're in balance versus imbalance? And if you are imbalanced in aspects of your life, are you able to do anything about it? Now, common reasons for the blockages here: grief. Grief will put a veil over the heart, like clouds, right? Abuse of any kind, betrayal from those that we trusted, rejection by others. So all of these can indicate that, we have some scars in the heart to work through, and then any negative relationships that we've been in. Now, the aspects to heal here: holding grudges. So if you find that you're holding on to a lot of energy, so the idea about forgiveness, it doesn't mean that we have to say, oh, I accept what that person did is okay. But what you really want to ask yourself is how the energy is affecting you. We don't care about that other person. That other person's gone, hopefully, out of your life. Or if they are in your life, then we should really question why we can't forgive them if we kept them in our lives. But really, ask yourself what that energy is doing to you when you're holding on to grudges, when you're not having the ability to let go of things. And really do it for yourself, not for them. We're not doing it because we're giving them grace. We're doing it because we're giving us grace, because we're going to say to ourselves, I don't want to carry that energy anymore. That's not mine to carry. So we want to let it go. Feeling jealousy. So anytime that we're feeling jealousy, this is always going to be kind of a shadow issue of the heart. The neediness or anxious attachment. So I think back to some of my early relationships, and I was in a very abusive, my first major relationship was quite emotionally abusive. And so I became this person. It's crazy when we finally broke up 5 years later, should have been much sooner than that, but 5 years later, I remember my friend said, it's like you came out of a coma. And because I was very needy and had this very anxious attachment when I was in that relationship, in a way that I don't feel that I am in other areas. So when we notice those things about us, it's something, definitely a shadow aspect of the heart to explore. Excessively strong emotions. Many of us are empaths here. Many of us are very emotional. A lot of us have been told we're too emotional, we're too much. You probably heard all that. And I'm always one to celebrate your emotions, celebrate the way you are. But if your emotions are excessively strong, then that might be something to address with the heart, the shadow side of the heart chakra. Any addictions that we have can be worked through here with the heart chakra and the shadow side of it. And being overly defensive, unable to move on from the past. So again, kind of that's about the holding grudges and forgiveness idea, and then clinging to relationships after they're over. All of these things are areas that we can work through with the heart chakra and its shadow aspects. The throat chakra, themes to explore: communication, speaking your truth, self-expression, listening versus active listening. So when we're listening, a lot of times we're thinking about what we're going to say next, as opposed to active listening, where we're actually really trying to hear what the other person's saying and then decide what we're going to respond with. So if you have any of those issues, any issues with your communication, kind of speaking your truth in any area, really expressing yourself, expressing your needs, these are going to be themes to explore here with the heart. Now, common reasons for blockages: verbal abuse that we've experienced. We were forced to keep secrets when we were little or at any part of our lifetime. Receiving mixed messages. So sometimes there's relationships we're in where the messages are totally mixed. They're one day they're one thing, the next day they're a different thing, and it's very confusing. And it can lead to throat chakra issues. Feeling like you're not being heard when you're speaking. Now, shadow areas to heal here: lying. So kind of look at the lies that you have to tell. And sometimes lies are white lies, right? They're lies for the good of people. So I always kind of ask myself, when I have to tell a lie, is it going to be better if I tell it or not tell it, right? And what path am I going to take? But I will say is, anytime that we have to tell lies, even if we have to do them to protect ourselves or others, it's going to leave an energetic imprint in the throat. And so I would recommend that working with the throat chakra, that will help kind of take out and move some of that energy there. Habitual exaggeration. So if you're somebody who always like twists it a little bit or makes it a little bit better, kind of ask yourself why. Passive aggressive communication. Again, ask yourself why. Negative self-talk, a big one for a lot of us, that can be healed through the shadow side of the root chakra. If you find that you have to yell or talk over others in order to be heard. Now, so you might say that that's because they're talking too loud, and so they might have throat chakra issues, but you also want to look at your own throat chakra issues. And then difficulty speaking one's inner truth in any area of your life is going to be here in the throat. And difficulty speaking in public. Now, we're not expecting anyone to go out there and become an orator in front of everybody and give public speeches. But, if you have trouble speaking in public, it's working through the throat chakra will help. Okay, third eye. We're almost to the end here. Intuition, dreams, visualization, insight, and self-awareness. So these are all kind of the themes that go along with the third eye. Now, common reasons for blockages here: repressed memories or trauma. What happens when we repress memories? It's unconscious. It's not like we say to ourselves, oh, I'm going to repress that memory. It just happens, right? But anytime that we have repressed memories, we are using the energy of the third eye, which means we don't have as much energy of the third eye for other things, for our intuition, right? Expanding out into the universe. Traumatic or chaotic environments. So people who either grew up or live in an environment like this right now, where there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of unpleasant things, like to look at. I thought the next one was going to say an unpleasant environment, but basically an environment that just is very ugly because just because it's not a good place to be, and that can also have issues on your root chakra if you don't feel secure in that place either. But people who have grown up in like war-torn areas, places with a lot of crime, and just where they didn't feel safe and secure, and there was always kind of this, when you looked out at everything, it was scary. This would be a reason to have blockages here in the third eye. Lack of spirituality. So sometimes people who grow up in really strict Christian households, when they break away from that, they break so far away from it, they just kind of divorce themselves from spirituality. And that can cut themselves off from their third eye. So healing some of their religious trauma can help. And like I said, adverse religious experiences. Now, areas to heal here: lack of self-awareness. So, if you find that you aren't self-aware in many situations, this is something to explore here. Nightmares. So starting to really dissect the nightmares, trying to figure out what they are, maybe exploring how you can do lucid dreaming if you don't know how to do it, so that you can make some changes in your dreams. Poor dream recall oftentimes will be an area to heal the shadow side of the third eye. And what I recommend people do, and we have a whole module in Shadow Seekers where we go through like dreams, all about dreams. But the poor dream recall, you can start by just simply keeping a journal next to the bed. And when you wake up, write down the first thing that comes to mind. So even if you're not remembering a dream at all, but like maybe there's a feeling that you have, or a song in your head, or a thought that pops into your head, write it down, because it may be connected to a dream that you haven't remembered or can't remember that night. If you do, there's definitely ways to be able to recall your dreams through working with the third eye. A strong attachment to an illusion. So if you carry any illusion or a delusion of some kind, and you have a very strong attachment to it, letting go of that, working through that, is a shadow area to heal here. Shaming of other spiritual paths. So whether it's like your own path, that was shamed, or if you're carrying kind of like negativity towards other paths, kind of letting go of some of that can help heal the third eye. Struggling to see a vision of the future. So when you're asked, like, what does the vision of your future look like, if you can't see anything, if you can't imagine that, working through the third eye and working through that can kind of help. And then feeling stuck without solutions. This would be another area that you can work on with your third eye through its shadow aspect. Okay. Oh, and then excessive escapism. So that one's also going to be part of the crown chakra. But this is where, like, we just kind of detached from the world. We're sort of in a fantasy world. And if you find yourself kind of living in that world more than living in the one that we're in, then escapism is great. I love escaping after work. I love to playing Breath of the Wild, Zelda, Legend of Zelda right now on the Switch. And but if I was only doing that, right, I was excessively escaped into that, that would not be a good use of my time. But in doses, it's just great. So it's all about balance. Okay, and then finally, crown chakra, connection to spirit, the spirit element, consciousness, belief systems, spiritual identity. All of that is here in the crown. Now, reasons we might have blockages here: too much attachment to the material. So if you're really attached to material goods, material things, the material world, then we can have some issues with the crown. Now, as witches, we know that this is not about elevating out of this world and escaping this world the way it might be in some of the Abrahamic religions. But still, we don't want to get tamped down too deeply in material things. Spiritual abuse. If you suffered from any spiritual abuse, you're likely going to have some crown chakra issues. Negation of your beliefs by others also could lead to issues here. Over intellectualization. Now, shadow aspects to heal, or shadow areas to heal. Here's spiritual escapism again. Um, and that would be too, is if you are, I love spirituality. I run a spiritual business, right? But we still live in the mundane world. So we want to make sure that we're not escaping out of the mundane world too much. We're trying to find that balance. Imposing a personal belief system onto others would be an area to heal. Any attachment issues we might have, the need to be right, kind of explore that idea. Do you feel that you need to be right? Do you struggle with that? Do you kind of fight against others to get your word in, or your position in, or change their minds? And that would be something to explore. And here, harmful and extreme limiting beliefs. So any of our limiting beliefs can be worked through at the crown level. And then lack of spiritual life. So you may, we're all here. So I know that everybody here is spiritual, or you wouldn't be here watching this video. But if you find that, maybe you want more of it, and you feel that you kind of lack spirituality in your life, the crown would be a really good one to work with for you. And then spiritual cynicism. So like on the other extreme, or the other side of it, Anybody who had a lot of religious trauma or spiritual trauma may have developed spiritual cynicism, and you're just kind of cynical about anything that's kind of out there outside of you. And so that also would be something to work through. Okay, so before we end, I get asked this a lot, what does a shadow work session look like? So it's going to look different for everybody. Usually during a session, you will begin to process an experience or an issue in your life in a different way. That's usually the sign that it's happening. So sometimes it's going to feel like an aha moment. You receive sudden insight into something that had troubled you or you didn't have an answer to for a long time. And afterwards, you'll likely feel that a great amount of work has been done, even though it may have only lasted for a few minutes. And you may feel like something that was an issue for you all of a sudden isn't. Now, and what you might find, this is what I like to do too, is like once I have a shadow work session, so what it would be is like I could just be sitting on the beach at maybe a ritual. I'll just give an example of this full moon ritual. So I was sitting on the beach, I was doing this full moon ritual, and all of a sudden I had this insight into something that happened when I was 5 years old. And it just cleared up. It totally answered this question that I had struggled with my whole entire life. That's what a shadow work session can look like. Now, when you're doing your work regularly, you'll start to have more of those. Until then, you can just prompt yourself with the prompts and active imagination, contemplating your triggers, and eventually you start to have more and more and more of these shadow work sessions. But I like to then kind of when things are come out of it, then I like to do a releasing ritual afterwards at some point to kind of let go of some of that energy. Carl Jung said, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. I posted this, I've told this before, I posted this on my page a couple of times, and people always argue with me, roots don't really go to hell. I know that, it's a metaphor. Carl Jung knew that, it was a metaphor. But the idea here is that, we can't ascend unless we go down first. So, what are the benefits of shadow work? There are so many. We can recover from past trauma. We can feel less alone. We can develop a deeper trust in intuition, enhance our magical abilities, feel more wholeness and peace, maximize our powers of self-healing and healing of others, integrate all aspects of ourself, heal our emotional wounds, understand underlying emotions and motivations. So all those things that troubled us, we couldn't figure out like, why do I always do that? That can all be solved here through shadow work. Improve relationships with others and not be as affected by others' negativity and energy. And then one of the best parts of all is I feel like shadow work is definitely a way that you can up level your spiritual practice and alchemize the spirit and the soul. Okay, so before we go on, so I'm just going to check the chat here. I want to see what everybody else is saying. Amy said she thinks all of hers are blocked. And so I'm going to normalize that. I'm working on like all of them too. It's okay. It's just like there's a great book by Anodia Judith. The book is called Wheels of Life, and it's the user's manual to the chakra system. And I've had the book for 25 years. I use it all the time, and it's just like I let my body kind of guide me where tell me what chakra to work on next, and I'll work on that one. But it's not something that most people are going to find that there's more than one they have to work on, and many people will find that it's all of them. So I just want to normalize that. Colleen said that on her mom's side of the family, there's a line of anxiety. Yeah, exactly. So that is something that can be worked on through shadow work and letting go of I would especially work on like the root chakra and the sacral chakra to help with that. But see, that anxiety that gets kind of passed on, what was passed on through my family was a throat chakra issue, like I mentioned, but also like worry. And so what I realized at some point is that I was carrying a lot of worries that were my mom and my grandma's and not mine. And it took me some time to be able to figure out whose worries is it mine, is it theirs, right? Because if it's theirs, I need to let that go. It's not even mine. And then Kurt said, what about public speaking and being nervous about it? Yeah, so definitely with public speaking, I would work with the solar plexus because that's all about self-belief and self-esteem, and then working with the throat chakra. There's a really great exercise. I didn't show it in the energy practices, but the Brahmari breath, the bee's breath, is very good before public speaking or before you have to say something that is hard to say. And essentially you just inhale, you're going to close your ears off, and then when you exhale you'll make like a buzzing sound like a bee. So that's why we call it, Brahmari is the bee god of the Hindu pantheon. So it's like and it takes that sound inside your head. It will reverberate inside of there. If you do several rounds of that, that can help. Good for the throat chakra and good for public speaking. So anybody who's live, you guys can stick around till the end. And when we end the recording, you can actually unmute yourself and you can ask me questions too. Now, I'm just going to run through 10 minutes. I'm just going to tell you 5 to 10 minutes. I'm just going to tell you about our Shadow Seekers membership for those who are interested. We have some Shadow Seekers on here with us. So if any of you want to put in the comments anything that you feel about Shadow Seekers, you want to share anything with us, what your experience in Shadow Seekers has been, we would love to hear from you, especially those who are considering the membership. They also like to hear, from people who are in it and what we do. So, okay, so I'm just going to take you through this. And then, like I said, stick around if you're live with us for the Q&A, and I will answer any questions you've got about anything in the workshop or anything else about shadow work, energy work, and witchcraft. Okay, so if you want to dive in with us more deeply, I invite you to join our Shadow Work, Energy Work membership, Shadow Seekers. So our doors open a couple of times a year. And so right now we are going to be accepting new members from now until Thursday, March 7th. Now, the reality is we're not actually open yet. We don't actually open till Friday morning, but I'm going to offer a special deal for those who are live and those who watch this in the next 36 hours. So just listen for that. But we're not officially open, but once we open on Friday, we will be open until March 7th, Thursday night. So you'll have a whole week to decide. Now, we do have a limited number of spots each round. So those who are in Shadow Seekers know we don't take in like large numbers at a time. We take in a small amount so that we can help them get used to being in Shadow Seekers. And we're like a little family. And you'll notice that if you join us, we're like a little family. So if you feel called to do shadow work in a small group setting with a guide, I encourage you to join us sooner than later. And so, of course, anything that you learned here in this workshop, you can take this. I gave you so much, and you could take all of this and you could do so much with your shadow work. But sometimes people feel that they need extra support. They want the support of a group, and they want the support of someone who's been through it, who can help them. I learned all of this myself. I learned it through trial and error, what works, what doesn't work. I learned that you pair shadow work with energy work if you want to make it go faster. And so that can be the benefit of having someone aid you through it and guide you through it. But also the Shadow Seekers group, they're just such wonderful people. So it's great to have other people doing it with you. So Shadow Seekers membership is a shadow work and energy work membership designed specifically for witches, empaths, and spiritually minded people. So each month there is a live workshop on Zoom that always has a replay. Everything is recorded. So if you can't come live to anything, we have a membership portal. You can grab all the replays there. So here's just a taste of what we have in the portal. So some of our past workshops, we have one on Chiron, the wounded healer, discovering the wound in your astrological chart. We have another workshop, and Chiron it's an aspect of your astrological chart that will show you where you have brought in a wound into this lifetime, and through healing it, just like the mythological figure, the god Chiron, you can heal. He basically went on this journey to figure out the wound that he had, and it's a long story, but he was shot by a poisoned arrow in his leg, and he was trying to heal it. And because he was half mortal, and half immortal, he couldn't die. He just suffered in all this pain. And so he spent his whole lifetime trying to find a remedy for his pain. And along the way, he learned how to heal other people too. And so your Chiron wound in your chart shows you where you're wounded, but if you can heal that aspect, that's how you then can heal other people. So it's a really incredible workshop to take. We also have a workshop on introduction of the root chakra. We have workshops on all introduction to all the chakras except for the crown we haven't done yet. And then that workshop's also about exploring the ancestral wound. So we get into some ancestral work there. We'll be doing some in the future as well. We also have a workshop on meeting the inner child. We're going to be doing some more inner child work soon this summer, and I think this spring actually. We have a workshop on clairsentience and body intuition. So getting in and learning how to listen to your body and know what it's telling you. And then one of our newer workshops, the North Node, Discovering Your Soul Purpose, is a really great workshop as well. And then we have a recent one on introduction to the third eye chakra. So we get into like kind of some intuition exercises in that one. Now, in addition to the workshops, we also have dark moon or full moon rituals every month. So this month, we're actually going to be doing a full moon one, but most of the months we do dark moon rituals. So some of our past rituals, which you have access to when you join, is the Amaterasu ritual. This is one of my favorites. If you have some self-doubt about yourself, your magical abilities, or your mundane abilities, you do not want to miss that workshop. That workshop is great. It's all about how you can use the solar plexus to transform your self-doubt into self-belief. And then another workshop, the Morrigan Asking the Difficult Questions. So many people after this workshop made some really big changes in their lives. I quit my job the day after that, or not workshop, I should say ritual. I quit my job the day after that ritual, and now I am working less and making more money. So really powerful, powerful ritual. Another one, Kuan Yin, that's our self-love ritual. That's all about working with the heart chakra. Maclay, transforming grief. So people carry a lot of grief from those they've lost, and that is a great ritual there as well to work through some of your grief that you're carrying. We had a Carowin dark moon releasing ritual in January that you have access to as well. That's if you want to let go of something at the dark moon. And then our most recent ritual, Kaliak, seeking the wisdom in the shadows, is all about connecting to your higher self. Okay, as though that was not enough. We also have a third monthly live Zoom call. This is our office hours, and this is just a chance for you to drop in. There's no like agenda. You just drop in and you can get help from me or on what you're working on, or just help others too. So members will kind of come in and they'll tell what they're working on, and you can support them. And then we also have a series of alignment practices. These are priming and prompting activities for your shadow work and energy work. And so we have videos on yoga and yin yoga, breath work, kundalini energy exercises, meditations, mantras, mudras, and more. So it's all kinds of practices to help you move energy. So you're doing the energy work in addition to your shadow work. Now, our members get access to all the lives plus 12 months of replays, and it's actually more than 12 months. You get 12 months of rituals, but the workshops in there, I think there's like 19 workshops in there that you have access to when you join. So there's a lot of good information, and you don't have to watch it all. You may find that not all of it resonates with you, but there's some great stuff to get you started. Now, upcoming, so in February, that should say March, upcoming in March, our first event is going to be a Shadow Seekers virtual mixer. So we did this like 3 months ago. It was so much fun, and people just joined. Our new members and our current members joined on. And we had like a little party. We give away prizes, and we did something really fun with tarot and oracle cards where we just had people pull a card, and then that card would be for the next person like in the list on Zoom. And so everybody got a card pulled by them for them. So it was really fun, and we play little witchy games. So those are always fun. We try to do those about every 3 months. And then we have a workshop coming up on March 17th. This is the shadow side of the root chakra. So I rarely met a person who doesn't need work on their root chakra. So if you were watching this and you felt that the root chakra was something you needed to work on, you're in luck, because we're diving right into it. So right immediately we already have a workshop on the introduction to the root chakra. This one's going to get into the shadow side of it. And then we have a really special ritual coming up, a spring equinox full moon ritual. We're going to make rainbow chakra spell jars. That's on Saturday, March 23rd. Now, we will be opening that up to the public, so it's one of our Coven of Midnight's Flame rituals. And so if you're not in the membership, if you decide not to join the membership, you'll be able to buy a ticket to that. But all of our shadow seekers will get that free. So that's part of their membership. And then we have office hours on Sunday, March 31st. Okay, so future topics coming up. We're going to be exploring the mother wound in April. We've been needing to do this for a while. The mother wound comes from many different sources. It can come from our own needs that were not met by our own mother. It can come from an absent mother. Even loving mothers who are present can contribute to the mother wound because we just, as children, we didn't get everything we needed. But the mother wound also comes from society. So the fact that we were born into a patriarchal society that has like stifled the feminine voice, the divine feminine for so long is contributes to part of the mother wound as well. And it can create an existential issue at times where we feel kind of disconnected from things. So this is going to be an amazing workshop. I'm really excited for it. And then in May, we're going to be doing a whole workshop on Kundalini energy work for witches. So that exercise I showed with the movement exercise, I'm going to be showing more of those. I'm going to be teaching you all about Kundalini energy, how you can move it through your body, how you can attempt to have a Kundalini experience and awakening. So it's just a really great workshop. And it's through the lens of a witch, because we can actually use that energy in our spell work too. We're going to be doing more past life astrology. We already have one workshop in the portal on past life astrology. We're going to be doing another one very soon. We're going to be exploring archetypes, light versus shadow aspects, soul contracts. So this is finding out, why are we here? What are we here to do? We're going to be doing a workshop on EFT. This is the emotional freedom technique. It's an energy tapping technique where you can release emotional energy from the body. It's a really great technique to have and a tool in your belt or in your toolbox. We're going to be doing a yoga nidra workshop as well. So that yoga nidra, to remind you, is a special type of meditation that, like I said, my teacher said it was like 25 years of therapy in like 2 months. The profound effects it had on her. We are going to look at the shadow side of pop culture and media. We're going to do some more inner child work. We are going to do breath work for witches, the shadow side of the chakras. We're starting in next month or this coming month with the root, shadow side of the root, but we're going to do all of the shadow side of all of the chakras one at a time. And then also, I've been planning to do this for a while, discovering your dosha. This is a way to really explore the energetic composition of your body, and it's really an interesting workshop. So we have so many great things coming up. So before I tell you any more about the works or about the membership, I just wanted to share a minute or two about me, because whenever you are considering working with someone, you should always find out about them first. Just make sure that you resonate with the path they came from and the path they're on and who they are. So I dedicated myself to the goddess Litha Morning, 1997. I practiced witchcraft with my roommates for a few years before I joined the Boston Pagan Alliance in 2000. And then I moved to LA in 2004 to pursue my music. That's where I live now. When I first got to LA, I had this kind of hole in my heart that I'd left behind the Boston Pagan Alliance. And so I dabbled in all kinds of occult and Western mystery traditions for several years. I went back and forth between different temples. I was at the OTO temple for a bit. I was at Lucius Temple for a while. It's an offshoot of OTO that is a little bit less sexualized than the OTO. Some of their material was. Builders of the Adaitam. I studied Kabbalah and Tarot there. And then eventually, I finally came back to Wicca in 2008, and I joined the Coven of Twilight Moon. Now, I received my third degree in that tradition in 2011, and I became a high priestess of my own coven in 2012. And then in 2015, I founded my own tradition, the Midnight Tradition, and I became the high priestess of Coven of Midnight's Flame. That is my current coven. Now, the Midnight Tradition really merges Western and Eastern practices together. And so a lot of what I teach in Shadow Seekers, comes from some of the stuff that I've taught over the years in this coven. I have several degrees and certifications that kind of this one not so much, but we do bring a lot of music into our rituals. At least I try to, and I plan to write some more chants for us. So I have a bachelor's in songwriting from Berklee College of Music. I have my master's in counseling psych from Northeastern. I'm also a 500-hour registered yoga teacher. I specialize in meditation, yoga nidra, yin yoga, and kundalini energy. And I'm also a trained doula and an educational therapist and teacher. That's my muggle job. So I've been on my own shadow work journey for many years. I began an intensive shadow work practice about 4 years ago after an ectopic pregnancy and a life-saving surgery. And so what I found is that after my surgery, when I came out of it, I actually had um, a type of near-death experience during it, where I was given a choice to come back or not come back. And I when I came back and I came out of surgery and I woke up in the hospital room, I remember that, you know, I put a lot of energy into healing myself physically. I was very anemic. I had lost, I think, 1.75 liters of blood. And so I was very anemic. And I ate really well, and I was able to heal my body very quickly to a degree that really astonished the doctors. But my emotional body didn't heal as well. And so that's when I really turned to my shadow work. And when I first turned to it, it was to heal myself emotionally. But what I discovered is that I started to become so much more intuitive. My connection to the gods and the goddesses was strengthened. My clairs, I didn't even know I was claircognizant, and all of a sudden I was predicted the day that we got our house. I mean, it's just crazy things started happening to me. And so it was a byproduct of all the shadow work that I was doing and all these blockages I was letting go of. And so this shadow work and these alignment practices that I teach in the membership, they're responsible for getting me through the dark night of my soul. I would not be here or who I am today without it. There's just a little graphic, all the things we get, live monthly rituals, alignment practices, replays, workshops. We have a private Facebook group for members only. We've got weekly shadow work prompts. So your membership includes, like I said, your live monthly dark moon and full moon rituals with the replays. Everything has replays. Live monthly workshops, monthly alignment practices, monthly office hours. We have a private members only Facebook group. So this is just for the people who are in the membership. And like I said, it's like a little family. You can come in there and share your wins, share your struggles, just be around people who are like-minded. We also have a program that we recently started for accountability partners and groups. So if you want to opt into this, if you join us and this is an optional part of the membership, and you can choose to be paired up with between 1 and 3 other people. And then you just have kind of some extra friends in the group who are also working on stuff with you. Everyone in the membership gets all complimentary tickets to all of our Coven of Midnight's Flame online Sabbath rituals. We also have weekly shadow work prompts and exercises to kind of keep you going on your journey. You get access to all the past replays in the membership portal. We have monthly membership challenges. We've been doing these for about 6 months. So we have an exercise that you get every month. And if you choose to do it, you can just do it. Anybody can do it. But if you choose to enter the challenge, you just fill out some reflection questions about the exercise and you're entered into a contest. And we have a prize every month. So sometimes it's a free one-on-one session with me. Sometimes it's like a deck of oracle or tarot cards we'll send you, or I make jewelry, we'll send you a piece of my jewelry. Beth, the maiden from Coven of Midnight's Flame, she puts together these like elemental boxes of witchy goodies. She'll send those out. So we just have a ton of awesome prizes. So it's a good way to like move your shadow work journey forward and then also win something. And then also really great perk of the membership is you get 33% off of our Demystifying Witchcraft course. So this is our course that teaches the foundations of witchcraft. And it's basically my training from my coven when we initiate people into the first degree. And that course also leads people to an option to initiate into our online coven. So it's really nice benefit of the membership if you're interested. And that course is like 25 hours of content, I think. So here's some testimonials. In a moment, I will drop you a link where you can go and you can read more about the membership on our website, and you can read more of these testimonials. But I sometimes get teary-eyed when I read them, because it's really hard to run. I work as an educational therapist and a tutor, and then I run this membership, and I run Body Mind Witchcraft, and I work like 15 hours a day. So I put a lot of work in, and so to read these comments that come from people and to see all of the help that they get from doing shadow work and energy work, it's just really, it makes everything worth it for me. So you can definitely go to our website, read more of the testimonials from our members. All right, so I'm aware that there is a lot of benefits and features and small group guidance from me, which is hard to come by. I'm active in it all the time. And you've probably seen me in Body Mind Witchcraft. I'm very active there. I'm even more active with people in our Shadow Seekers membership. And so it's like having a guide right with you all the time. So we know that that is worth well over $100 a month. That's not what we're charging. So we're offering this for $37 a month. And if you're on here with us live, we do have another special offer here to go along with this. But just kind of imagine all of the stuff that I talked about and all of the benefits that you can receive from really doing shadow work and taking it seriously. Think about getting all of that for just $1 a day, about $1 a day. And the thing is too, this is very casual. You're not getting like talked into anything or roped into anything or signing anything away. It's literally, you can cancel anytime. So at most, try, if you're on the fence, try it for a month. If it's not for you, then you're just going to cancel your membership after the first month, and that's all it is. At least you tried it, right? But here's the offer that I have for those who want to sign up. I like to reward people who are ready, who want to take the jump and the step forward now. So if you want to opt in early, so like I mentioned, we're not really open until Friday morning. But if you want to opt in early and save some money, I'm going to give everybody who's on our wait list and everybody who's attending this workshop or watches it live or watches it back in replay in the next 36 hours, I'm going to give you a chance to join early for $5 off a month. So you can put a coupon code SHADOW in at checkout, and your membership is going to cost you $32 a month instead of $37 a month. But you want to make sure that you're going to use that now, because when 36 hours are over, the code it will expire. So it's only going to work for the next 36 hours. So this is your reward if you want to jump in early. So remember, that code is SHADOW, and on the checkout page, I'm not wild about how it's a little link that's right above where you would put in the credit card, and it says got a coupon. You click that, you put in SHADOW, hit apply, and you'll see it take the money off. If you have any trouble loading that in, you just let me know. Okay, so that's for the next 36 hours. So if you join today, when you join today, you have immediate access to everything in the membership portal. That's your 12 months of workshops, ritual and office hour replays, all of the alignment practices. You can browse through them, watch them in whatever order you're called to at your own pace. Take your time with the material. And then we have our next live event coming up next Friday, March 8th, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. That's our Shadow Seekers virtual mixer. Now, then we have a March workshop, the Shadow Side of the Root Chakra, Sunday, March 17th. And the March Ritual Spring Equinox Rainbow Chakra Spell Jars is what we're making on March 23rd. Okay, so wouldn't you like to heal your emotional wounds and trauma, develop deeper trust in your intuition, enhance your magical abilities, feel more wholeness and peace, maximize the powers of self-healing and the healing of others, not be as affected by the negativity of other people and their negative energy, up-level your spiritual practice, and alchemize your spirit? Okay, so we would love for you to join us. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the link. So this is for anybody who's with us live right now. I'm going to drop this in the chat, but if you're going to watch this, if you're watching back in replay, you will find the link underneath the video where you're watching this, okay? Or you can just get it. It's a pretty simple website, bodymindwitchcraft.com/shadowseekers-offer. Okay, and then don't forget to use the coupon code SHADOW in the next 36 hours if you're going to join us early. Okay, so I'm going to, for those watching in replay, I'm going to end this now. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at AISLINLumina@bodymindwitchcraft.com. If you're on live, stick around. We'll have a Q&A afterwards. You can ask me anything. Okay, but until next time, blessed be.